everyone, and welcome to Roy's Tie-Dye Sci-Fi Corner. This is episode number 220. I am very excited to welcome a very special guest on his very special day, and that is going to be Mr. David Frankham, celebrating his 98th birthday today. Welcome, David.
Oh, thank you. Thank you very much.
And also, I want to let everyone know, joining David is Jonathan David DIXON and also Ben WICKEY. And also my co-host for tonight, the one and only Mr. Ross Amico. Ross.
Hi, Ross.
Hello, David. Happy birthday.
Thank you. Thank you.
It's good to see you again.
Oh, yes.
David, it is wonderful to see you. And I'm so happy that you're on with us and celebrating part of your day with us and the folks that are out there. So very, very excited about to have you on. And the comments are actually coming in. I'm just going to welcome the folks that are out there. They're in the comments section. Oh. And Dave Rash is out there, and he's saying happy birthday, David.
Hi, Dave. Hi.
And John and Sue from Ticonderoga.
Hi, John and Sue.
Yes, they're out there as well, too. Randy Lee's joining us from Wisconsin. Colin is joining us from the UK. Tony Williams is out there. He's saying happy birthday. Jeff Rubel is joining us from Utah. Jerry Seward is also saying hello. And also Sue and John are joining again from Massachusetts. So
Sue, our helper from Ticonderoga.
Oh, yes. At our table. Hi, Sue. Ticonderoga. What a happy day. Yes.
Yeah, I know. It's crazy. That was, if I remember correctly, that's almost like 5 years ago that you were up there. Maybe even I think it's going to be 6 this year. The time has gone by so quickly.
That long ago. Wow.
Yeah. But so, David, how was your day? Tell us how you doing? Just to catch up with you.
Well, I've had all my medical checkups that you get when you're about to be 98. I'm passing everything with flying colors, and I don't even have to touch wood. I feel great. I would like to be a little more mobile. You know, I'm a little bit creaky sometimes when I walk, but not always. I just feel terrific.
Oh, that's wonderful.
I mean that, yeah.
No, and it's great. I mean, we can only hope to be where you're at, you know, in the next few years. I mean, it's happy birthday to you. I just want to welcome a few other folks that are joining in. Don is joining us. Don Bethman. He's joining us from Delaware. He's saying happy birthday.
Thank you.
Also, Lou is out there. He's joining us from Rhode Island.
Hi,
also
Lou.
Saying happy birthday wishes.
Deborah
is joining us from Phillipsburg, New Jersey, right down the road. And wishing you again happy birthday.
Oh gosh.
And Sue,
let's all meet again 2 years from now too.
Absolutely, definitely.
Yeah, one thing at a time, right? Okay.
I see Bill Kabulak is also out there, and also.
Oh yes.
Oh, could you read Sue and John's question there about his physical?
Yes, and Sue said, David, did you study your physical exams? Lots of laughs.
Did you study for your physical?
No, I didn't.
He cheated.
I crossed my fingers a lot, and it all worked out. He said, David, for a very, very, very old man, you're doing okay.
Aww.
Although he cheated on his physical exams. He looked over at the little old man next to him and stole his answers.
It's like the Kabayashi Maru.
Anne Marie is also saying hello and happy birthday from the Wickies in Gloucester, Massachusetts.
That's my family.
Oh gosh! Hi,
Dad and Wendy and Phyllis and Anne Marie and Jim.
Hi there. Hi folks. Hi.
Kelly Barber, Crazy Kelly. Yep.
Very nice. Thanks for joining. And yes, Kelly from Ticonderoga is out there. Hey, Kelly, how are you?
Hi, Kelly.
She's saying also happy birthday, dear friend. Shari is saying happy birthday, and she's actually not downstairs right now. She's actually at work, but she said, happy birthday, David. What's your secret?
Breathing. That's all. Just keep breathing.
Actually, once somebody asked David what the secret of his longevity was, and it says it's choose your ancestors well and then inherit their DNA.
Which I seem to have done. Yeah.
Great response. Tony says we will all look forward to that, David, and he's referring to in 2 years.
Oh, good. Me too. Yeah. Actually, 101 because of one of my movies was 101 Dalmatians. And so I promised myself I will attend a special screening at the Disney studio of 101 Dalmatians when I'm 101.
How special will that
You're
be?
both invited. You're both invited.
That's awesome.
Thank you.
Chris LaRoche is out there from Ticonderoga. He's actually in Florida. He's saying, hello, David. So good to see you again.
Hello, Chris.
We still remember that nice breakfast at the hotel when we ran into you.
Yes.
And Matt Anthony's out there. He's saying, hello, happy birthday, David, 98. How do you do it? Keep looking at life through those rose-colored glasses.
Oh, that's what they are. Okay. All right.
People often think that's an affected movie star thing, but it really cuts down the glare on his vision.
Yeah.
So there's a purpose to that.
Yes.
And Sue said, Roy, I think it was 2019 that David Frankham was up at Ticonderoga. So that was 4.5 years ago. I stand corrected, Sue. And Martin is out there joining us from New York, saying happy birthday as well, too. Christian is joining us from Canada, saying happy birthday. Colleen is joining us from Pennsylvania and East Stroudsburg and saying also happy birthday.
Oh, wow. Thank you.
And Tony said you have something to look forward to with 101 Dalmatians. That's awesome. So anyway, yeah. So with that, David, I don't want to hurt your ears or else I would sing to you. So I promise the happy birthday wishes are there.
Okay.
So just want to, talk a little bit about your career, just to remind some of the folks that have not been on when you've been on before. And your stories are amazing and everything that you have done and you've experienced. I mean, you are Hollywood royalty now because of everything that you have done and experienced. You have worked, you are like a legend and you have worked with the legends. So I just want to say that to you as well, too.
Oh, thank you. Gosh. All right.
So in regards to different movies, one movie I just want to touch back with you on was The Return of the Fly, when you worked on that, and that was with Vincent Price.
That's right. Correct. Vincent Price. And I can't remember now who else was in it, but it was my first film in which I got, star billing in 1959. And I knew that I was going to be a killer to a degree and that I might die. And actors love that. If you have a good death scene, you're home free. Everybody loves dying on film, So when that came up in 1959, I thought, oh, wow, I didn't know then. That was the first of my 3 films, one in a row with Vincent Price, 59, 60, 61. So it was a very happy shoot, a very hectic one. We did that whole film, I think, in 13 days, 5 days each week, of course. And I loved every minute of it. Vincent Price kept walking past me just to make me feel at ease. I hope you know you've got the best part of the picture, kid. And in a way, I suppose I did, because he wasn't a villain. I was the villain then. Yeah, I had to shoot him, which I did, I hope successfully. And oh, yes, of course, the monster gets me in that film. To anyone who hasn't seen it, there was a marvelous, creepy monster in a morgue. And I went into morgue just to check on the dead bodies. And the next thing I knew, I was one of the dead bodies. And a wonderful actor in it, to anybody who loves the character actors in movies, Dan Seymour. Dan Seymour was a Warner Brothers contract player. He was in Casablanca, Johnny Belinda, Key Largo. And just to show how cheap Fox could be, they had a lot of scenes with Dan and me, but they packed them all together. So that poor Dan was filming and talking nonstop from 7 a.m. to 10 p.m. And I was so thrilled to be working with him. I'd admired him for years. I never saw him look at the script. He'd memorized everything. And maybe he sensed that for almost 12 hours more, in fact, he would be doing all his scenes in one bunch. So we did. And I'll never forget those scenes with him.
Wow.
A wonderful actor. Wonderful.
That must have been it was so impressionable for you to remember it with such clarity and everything, and it made such a big impression on you. And that was your first film that you were saying that you did over here too.
Well, my first film was to get my Screen Actors Guild card. My agent said, well, just take whatever first comes along. In 1957, I'd already done a year on live TV, matinee theater, that was called. So my agent called and said, okay, you've got your first film. It's called, what is it called, Jonathan?
Johnny Tremaine.
Johnny Tremaine. I said, good. What do I play? She said, well, actually, you're behind a tree and you point your finger and say, after them. So that was my SAG debut. 2 words, and not even my face, just my hand behind. But was I thrilled? You know, I'm from England, and I went home on the bus that night thinking, I'm an American movie actor now. Wow. So that was my first one. And the second one, as you say, was Return of the Fly.
Wow, that's awesome.
How'd it feel to be on the wrong side of the Revolutionary War?
Yeah, that's funny. You know, my only dread of that, even before I knew I only had 2 words, was, do I have to ride a horse? I've only been on a horse once, and that's a funny story we'll tell later. Barbara Stanwyck arranged that for me. But luckily, when I got on the set, I said, oh, no horses, thank goodness. Well, where are my lines? And they say, listen, kid, you haven't got lines. It's line singular, 2 words, after me. Get behind the effing tree. So I didn't, and said my words, and went home thinking, I've got a Screen Actors Guild card now. Big thrill.
To go back to Return of the Fly,
Yeah.
one of David's co-stars is actually here in this house. No, it's not Brett Halsey.
Oh, look.
It's the guinea pig with human hands.
Aww.
I was the bad guy, you see, and I anyone who crossed my path, I would turn into a guinea pig like that. Isn't that wonderful? This is a birthday gift from a dear friend. Oh, gosh.
So a few days ago.
One of my co-stars.
Not Brett Halsey.
Is that the original?
Not Brett Hall. No.
Is that the original prop?
No, it's
It's a rep.
Rick's.
I was going to say it held up very well.
Thank you, Rick.
Yes, thank you, Rick.
Sue asked, she said, Roy, could you please ask David to recount his story of meeting David Hedison, who was in the original The Fly? David Hedison was Captain Crane on Voyage to Bomb the Sea. Yeah.
On the very first morning of shooting, even before the cameras had started turning, David Hedison showed up to wish us luck, and I thought that was so nice of him. I liked him very much. Of course, he was there very briefly. He said, okay, good luck, fellas. Oh, they're about to shoot. Goodbye. But at least I got to shake hands with David Hedison from the original Fly. Yeah.
Very nice.
Yeah.
Yeah. I had the opportunity to meet him several years ago at a convention. It was like what they call Chiller Theater, and it's in New Jersey. It's kind of like an autograph convention, and he was just very, very, very nice and very humble.
Is he still with us?
He's not. He passed away a few years ago.
I'm at an age now when I hate to look at the obituary section in the Screen Actors Guild magazine. Oh, my friends, you know, but happens to all of us. So wherever he is, David, I hope you're having a wonderful time out there.
Aw.
Are you still doing conventions, David?
Well, the last one was the Long Island convention. I think we're up for one, but it's not confirmed yet. We don't know. But yes, you bet. I mean, I'm ready for the next one. Absolutely. I'd never done them before, you know. And initially I thought, oh gosh, I can't talk to groups of people. Well, you couldn't shut me up. I had such a wonderful time. Total strangers, you know, coming up to my table, and I'd sign a photograph or my autobiography. I just always asked people where they were from. They seemed just so genuinely pleased to be there talking to me as I was talking to them. So I certainly hope we'll have some confirmation of conventions still to come.
No, we definitely would love to see you at any upcoming conventions. And I have to say that convention that was in Ticonderoga, it was such a pleasure to have you there and to be. I remember when you were in the it was in the music room in the high school where you were, you know, talking about, you know, giving your presentation and everything, and it was just a wonderful time, and so many memories too of everything that you have done. So that made it that much more really pleasurable to meet you in person. And Jonathan was there to meet Jonathan, and
what you guys didn't see ahead of time was, I think that was David's first real convention.
Yes, it was.
So he didn't know what to expect. So he knew he had to give a talk. in this room. So we were sitting outside while they finished up whatever they were doing.
I can't give a talk. I
And
can't give
David was actually getting depressed. He was thinking, "There's not going to be anybody there. I'll walk in. It's an empty room, and it'll be depressing." And it was completely full, of course. And it went great, and they couldn't shut him up.
Yeah, that is a marvelous museum to anyone who's never been to Ticonderoga. This is a museum about the original Star Trek series by James Corley, I think. Yeah, wonderful man. And he called me about it. I knew nothing about this. He said, David, I've just bought your outfit from Star Trek for, I think, $15,000. And I said, why? And he said, because everything about Star Trek is things people love. And so he had indeed, he said, I want you to come out and model it. Well, that was 1968, and this was whatever that was. So I had put on a pound or two. And so he wanted me to wear it to greet the fans at Ticonderoga. So we got there and I put it on. A little bit of me stuck out on the right side. So what they did was turn me sideways for the fans to come up and shake my hand, not knowing that my extra weight was out of sight on the other side. Oh, God. So I think I fooled them all. I could still get into the uniform with only a little bit of me still sticking out.
No, you look great, David. In fact, I did get a photo with you, and it was
Yes.
it was in the transporter room because
Yes.
when we did the photo op for that, and you look great. And how cool that must have been just for yourself too. I mean, in the original series costume that you wore from 1968. Fast forward to 2000. Sue's saying it's 2019. I thought it was 2018, but literally 50 years later. And then you're wearing the same uniform, the same costume that you had. That's just amazing.
I couldn't believe it. In fact, I said to John Corley, why would you spend, he spent, I think, $15,000 to buy my outfit? And he said, anything to do with Star Trek, the fans love it. So that was the reason for it.
Yeah, and as soon as they opened the door, I remember, the hallway doors that really opened like a curtain. David walked in, and I remember he burst into tears.
I did. I hadn't seen that set since 1968. Yeah. John Corley's done a wonderful job, James, of recreating everything there,
Yeah, the detail that James Zai and everything, it's painstakingly. I mean, everything down to the T. I mean, there is no place like that in the world that is actually, as far as detail and everything, it's every minuscule. So yeah, if anybody out there has not been to the Star Trek,
it's worth the trip. It's worth the expense of getting it. Go, enjoy, and love it.
I had a friend, to speak even more of it, who said, my brother's a big Star Trek fan, and is it worth the cost of entrance to go there? And I say, honestly, it would be worth it at 3 times the cost.
Yes, he's right. He's right.
So
yeah,
I hope they win.
Yeah.
Don't give many ideas.
Don't raise the price up.
Oh, no. Right.
No, and your reaction too, David, where you said you were crying. So many people that have been there for the very first time and have experienced it just have had that type of reaction. And it's very interesting to see people of all ages. Whether they're mostly it's folks that are older, adults like ourselves and everything, but that see it, and it's just like, wow, it's just incredible.
Yeah, but it's amazing. The tears just came the moment they opened those doors. Oh my God, yes. I stopped there. I died there. I remembered every place I'd been on that set. Yes.
And the costume is still there. Yes.
Yes. I think he has about 5 costumes from original actors in the original series, I think, on display. Yeah.
And appropriately, they had him right next to Yvonne DiCarlo's costume. And I said, oh, David married Yvonne DiCarlo in Tales of Wells Fargo. So that's appropriate.
Small world. It's a small world. Yep.
That's so awesome. Kelly said you did look great.
Oh, good. I'm pleased to hear that.
And Chris said he love your stories. So one of the we talked about the Return of the Fly and everything. The next movie, talking about Vincent Price, and we had discussed this movie on the show, was Master of the World.
Yes.
And that was in 1961. That was another great film that you were involved with as well too.
It was my favorite of the three that I did with Vincent. For one thing, we had 3 weeks, days of, 5 days each week on that. So time to relax. A lovely cast and crew. Vincent, of course, Mary Webster, Henry Hull. Now, some of our very oldest viewers will remember Henry Hull as the werewolf of London in 1935 or 6, I think. Henry and I just got along like a house on fire, so much so that when the movie finished and Henry flew back to where he lived on the East Coast, I got a call about a month later. Somebody said, my name is Shelley Hull, and I'm the son of Henry Hull, and I'm casting a series called Wells Fargo, and my father insists that I find a guest starring role for you, David. And he did. So thanks to Henry Hull for initiating that. And it turned out that the director of that episode of Wells Fargo was William Whitney, who had directed me in Master of the World. Yeah. I want to say a word about Charles
Bronson.
Charles Bronson, because people have said, "Oh, well, was he any good? Yes, he was damn good in everything." He was from the Pasadena Playhouse. He'd done all his training there. By then, at that time, he was chiefly known for the werewolf film, Jonathan. Anyway.
House of Wax, maybe?
House of Wax.
House of Wax,
yeah. And he played Igor, the mute. So people assumed that he wasn't too smart, I think. Brilliant actor. And so generous to me. He was so nice. Called me Dave. And I don't usually respond to Dave rather than David. But if he wanted to say it, that was okay. He taught me how to knock him out, which is not an easy thing to do if you're fighting with Charles Bronson. But he showed me how to hit a punch. And I seemingly knocked him out and he fell down, And one strange thing about that film, we were shooting the scene where we were dangling from the aircraft. Vincent had punished us by dangling us from the Albatross. And suddenly, while we were dangling there and they were setting up the lights, an alarm bell went off. There was a fire in the studios there at the old studios. Everybody ran off the set except Charles and me. We were left hanging from the ropes, hoping the flames wouldn't reach us. As you can see, they didn't. So I have nothing but admiration for Charles Bronson, nothing. He deserved the enormous success that he got. He proved to people that he could really act. And I think he wound up in a mansion in Bel Air, and he deserved it all.
Well, one thing that bothers David is that people often say, well, we hear he was really difficult on that film. No. That's a reputation that's come. And David says, no.
He was just very shy. We were shooting at very old studios, and on the next soundstage, his best buddy was doing his series, Steve McQueen, doing Wanted Dead or Alive, I think it was. Well, Charles was so shy. Vincent liked a social set. He would arrange our chairs, off-camera chairs, in a semicircle so we could all visit between takes. Charles would never sit on his chair. The moment that William Whitney called cut, there'll be a 10-minute break while we set up for the next shot, he would just head over to the next studio and hang out with Steve. They were great buddies. And he did bring Steve McQueen on the set. And this is before Steve became the major star that he did, But we were all quite impressed to meet Steve McQueen. But when Steve McQueen returned to his set, Charles went with him until he was called to come back to Master of the World.
Well, one thing, too, to back that up, I think in 2015, David and I did a commentary for Master of the World.
Oh, yes.
And to check other people, Mary Webster was still alive. We called her. Yeah. David had stayed in touch for years.
Yeah.
And, was Charles Bronson difficult? And she said, no, he's just really shy. And she said, that's Charlie. I'd known him for years at that point. And, and so we talked to Cortland Hull, who was the great nephew of Henry Hull.
Oh, yes.
Said, did you hear any stories from your uncle? And he said, yeah, he and Charles Bronson got along great.
Yeah.
So...
Yeah, and it's so unfortunate too, because a lot of times what happens is people misconstrue somebody that's very quiet or to themselves as maybe being standoffish or snobbish.
Yes.
And really, it's just that they're they're shy and they it's hard for them to get outside of their realm. And and sometimes I've actually heard this too about actors, that it's almost when they're on stage or if they're performing, they can, you're being another character, you're being somebody else, so it's easier to be that other person, so to speak. But then when it comes to speaking maybe in front of crowds, then they're a little bit, they're afraid because they're being themselves. I guess you're more vulnerable.
Yeah, you
really,
just yeah.
So it's understandable.
You're
And
quite right.
Charles Bronson was from Pennsylvania, if I remember correctly, too. And I think he was like from a maybe Scranton, Wilkes-Barre, if I remember correctly.
He was so shy and insecure that when we started that film, he said to William Whitney, "I hope you know you're just getting a coal miner instead of me." He still thought of himself. That was so touching that he would say that,
Yeah.
Yeah.
Well, it's wonderful to hear that he was such a like a warm person, and it's sad that was misconstrued though from from people.
And here's an image. David said he remembers Henry Hall leading sing-alongs. Like somebody asked him, was Henry Hall really as gruff as everyone said?
No.
And he said, David said, Henry Hall even got Charles Bronson to join in to sing-alongs.
He did. Henry Hall was just full of energy. He was a wonderful, wonderful man. And a fine actor, of course. I think he was under contract to 20th Century Fox for maybe Jesse James, Return of Jesse James. He was, and Lifeboat. He was in Lifeboat. He was a marvelous actor. We really were blessed to have a good cast and crew on that movie.
That's awesome. And back, during that time frame, like in the 50s and the 60s, it was, the studios were different the way than they are today, but more so that they had folks that would be, I think the term would be, they were like contract players, or they would work specifically with one studio for maybe so many years in their contracts, and they would be connected to whatever films that they wanted to have them associated with because they were a contract player.
That's right. You see, that was true of Dan Seymour and Warner Bros. All the films, including Johnny Belinda, in which he had a big part. Not Wells Fargo, but one of
Key Largo.
Key Largo. Yeah, I think if you were a contract player, not necessarily a star, but if you had the security of being a contract player, you knew you would be used a lot and people would get to know you. You didn't have to be a movie star to have a following, All because of the system in those days, yes.
So it was almost like more advantageous because you were almost, I don't want to say guaranteed, but you were guaranteed almost to be seen. And then based on how you conducted and performed, you maybe could potentially go to the next level. Kind of like what you were saying about Steve McQueen. He was involved with the movies and maybe he wasn't a star yet at that point, but then he would progress maybe potentially to the next level with that.
Yeah. A studio would build them up. Think of somebody like Peter Lawford. If a lot of your viewers know who he was, he became quite a star at MGM. He began with one line at MGM, then they would give him a little more. They put him into Easter Parade and gave him a song to sing alongside Judy Garland and Fred Astaire. Peter Lawford had to sing, "I'm just a fella with an umbrella." It became a hit. And the next thing you knew, he was a movie star.
Wow.
Yeah.
That's incredible.
But even if you didn't take off, you were kind of guaranteed to, well, you weren't guaranteed, but there were so many character actors that you would recognize the faces from film to film.
Yes. Oh, yes. Oh, yes. I did. I was a movie fan from the age of 13 on. The first film I really sat seriously looking at was Fantasia. And from then on, I went to the movies every week, and I got to know I was an only child. So many of my friends were these character actors whom I didn't know I was going to be blessed to be working with some of them, like Dan Seymour. Yeah.
Gladys Cooper.
Gladys Cooper, the wonderful Gladys Cooper. Yeah. That's how I became an actor. I went to see Now Voyager, and it was a Bette Davis film, but Gladys Cooper, a wonderful English actress, quite mature by then, in her 60s, played, why it affected me, I don't know. She played Bette Davis's mean-spirited mother. I was 16, thinking, what do I do with my life? And when I saw Gladys Cooper being that mean, I thought, that's what I want to do. So that's how the initial thought came to me to be an actor, because Gladys Cooper was so bitchy to
But that's very powerful in itself, though, that a performer can have such an impression on you, and in regards to knowing that you wanted to follow that as far as a career. So that's almost like a sliding doors moment too. Seeing the performance and really influencing him.
And we became great friends. When Gladys taught me how to drive with a police cop behind us saying, here's another ticket, Miss Cooper. She drove too fast in her Thunderbird, but I loved her so much. And at one point, I think two of us were penciled in to be the guest stars on an episode, I think of 12 O'Clock High. And then the day before, the phone rang and it was Gladys because of some line in the contract,
a sponsorship conflict.
She wasn't allowed to play the part. So I showed up the next day. Another fine actress, Hermione Baddeley, played the part, but she wasn't Gladys Cooper.
But David's life has so many of these weird coming full circle things, like Gladys Cooper inspired him to be an actor, what to want to be an actor when he was 16. And later he interviewed her for the BBC, and later she was the first person to meet you in New York when you landed in the US.
Oh, yes, she was appearing on stage in the Chalk Garden, and I was being rather grand on my way to America. Although I only had $750 in my pocket, I got into the wireless room and did a sort of email to Gladys in New York. Arriving in New York tomorrow, would love to see you in the play. So dear old Gladys, she got a box seat for me, and I sat royally in this box seat watching her be brilliant in the Chalk Garden.
And then she taught him to drive. The
she
person
taught-
who inspired him taught him to drive.
Well,
decades later.
she was a speed demon. Wonderful lady.
That's
wow.
great. Next time I watch Now Voyager or The Bishop's Wife, I'll think of that.
Isn't she wonderful in The Bishop's Wife when David Niven gets stuck to a chair and she's doing all she can to get him out of the chair?
Right.
I'm not a David Niven fan. I mean, I know he's a fine actor, but Alec Guinness really got me started when I ran into him in Hollywood. I hadn't worked at all by then. And he said, here you are. What are you doing? I told him I'd gone to be an actor. In England, he said I was too old to be an actor. Now, at the Beverly Hills Hotel, he gave me 3 letters of introduction, one of which was to David Niven. But David Niven, I had interviewed David Niven in England for my BBC show. I got a letter back saying, my series has ended for the season, and in any case, I don't need any extras. And that put my back up. I thought, Mr. Niven, I haven't come 6,000 miles to be an extra. So anyway, that's just me being small-minded. He's a fine actor. I love him in The Bishop's Wife, yes.
Okay.
Wonderful stories. I just want to say hi to Francois. He's saying happy birthday to you, David.
Hi, Francois. Thank you.
And also, I want to say Jenny Bonnie Mellett is out there. She's actually joining us from Australia. And she's saying happy birthday. And Tony commented, said, Jonathan, this is amazing. He also commented, he said, very few people say anything positive about Charles Bronson. He must have seen you as a genuine person. So I wasn't quick enough to get into that comment, but thank you for that.
Yes, thank you.
And he said Bronson came from a very impoverished background. He was really good just from the beginning of his career. And Dave confirmed, Dave Rash said, Erenfield, Pennsylvania.
Yes. Hi, Dave.
And let me see here. Linda is joining us from Canada as well. She says, greetings, everyone, and happy birthday, good sir.
Thank you, Linda.
And David's saying, thank you for sharing these wonderful stories with us, David. What a delight.
Good.
And also, Dennis Chevalier is joining us. He's joining us also from Canada. He's saying welcome.
Thank you.
Michelle, I am not going to butcher your last name. I apologize. So I'm just going to say Michelle is out there. I always mispronounce it. And Michelle, I apologize for that.
We see it show up on David's Facebook often, but we still wouldn't want to pronounce it.
Oh.
But,
hi, Michelle.
She's from Ticonderoga as well, too. Part of the crew up there. And she said happy birthday as well.
Oh, good. Thank you.
And let me see here. Rick is joining us. Rick's from Rochester, New York, and he's saying hi.
It's Rick. Rick sent this co-star of mine from Return of the Fly. It's Rick. Thank you, Rick. You know I love this. Mwah! Love it.
Thanks
you,
for joining me. And Allison Landoni is out there. She's saying lobsters, and I wish you a very happy birthday.
It's Ben's mother. Yes.
It's my mom.
Hi, Allison.
Aw.
Hi. May I tell you a very brief story about Allison?
Absolutely.
She loves lobsters. And we were in Massachusetts, and what I think Allison still does, but she hates to think of lobsters being dropped live into boiling water. She'll go into a market, buy a lobster, take it home, and then she will set it free to go across the Atlantic. So when we were there, she got a lobster for me and one for Jonathan. We had to give them names. My favorite all-time actor is Dana Andrews, so I called my lobster Dana. May I have that again, please, Jonathan, please? And I picked up my lobster, and I swear, you know, lobsters do have eyes. I believe that I made eye contact with my lobster Dana before Ben's mum took him away, set him down into the water. We all wished him bon voyage across the Atlantic rather than being cooked alive in a pot.
Aw.
The lobsters were named Henry and Mary after his Master of the World co-stars.
Oh, okay.
You haven't lived until this live creature you're holding is looking at you, and we're looking back and making eye contact with the lobster. I swear it.
You know what? I probably won't eat lobster again after hearing
I
that.
never have. I never will. Never.
Michelle said that's really nice.
Have you ever did you ever meet Dana Andrews?
No, I didn't. You mentioned the Oxbow incident when he was really starting out, and he actually played a coward who was about to be lynched. I think Daryl Zanuck, who had him under contract, thought, we need to get him in more heroic parts. So, of course, he got Laura. I think the high point of his whole career was The Best Years of Our Lives. Have you seen that?
That's one of my favorite movies.
Oh, God. When he's sitting in the cockpit reliving the days of the war, you know, I'm in tears every time I watch that. That brilliant man I don't know if he got a nomination, but he never won an award. He should have. He should have.
In fact, he never worked with him, but I only found this out a few years ago. Late in David's career in the 70s, which would tie into your show, Roy, David had a credit for a Hardy Boys episode. So I found it and I watched it, and it's almost like they cut out David's visual, but you hear his voice. But the villain in that episode is Dana Andrews. So I came out and I said, David, you share a credit with Dana Andrews.
Oh, gosh.
Really? So you never met him, but you're in the same episode.
He was a very brave man. He became an alcoholic, but he cured himself. He got himself out of that and lived out his life very successfully, I think in real estate somewhere. So he overcame alcoholism totally by himself.
That's wonderful.
Yeah.
Let me see here. And the other thing I wanted to talk about too with you was you were talking about it a little earlier was 101 Dalmatians.
Yes. What, to talk about it?
Yeah. As far as how did that come about for you?
Well, it came about as these things always do with a call from my agent. Go to Disney tomorrow morning at 10 and read for the part of a cat in 101 Dalmatians. My only thought driving there that day, I'm going to meet Walt Disney. Oh my gosh. This was 1957, 8, I think. No, 60.
59.
Yeah. So anyway, my hopes were dashed. I'm sure you've heard of the original animators with Disney were called the 9 Old Men. And one of them was Wooly Riverman. So I met Wooly. He took me onto an empty soundstage. All around the walls were storyboards. And he's showing me what's going to happen to the cat all the way through. I'm looking over my shoulder. Where is Walt Disney coming in any minute? Wooly said, no, he never sees the people who are auditioning voices. And that's why he lost Deanna Durbin, because she sang for, I think, Snow White. She wasn't the right voice to Walt Disney. So that was it. She didn't get to work at Disney, but she went over the street to Universal and became Universal's biggest moneymaker for almost 10 years. She saved Universal from fiscal ruin, all because Walt Disney said she was wrong for Snow White, and he was right. Yeah. So anyway, never got to meet him on that. We'll jump ahead later if you like to Ten Who Dared, when I did get to meet him, but not during that. So I worked with a wonderful man called J. Pat O'Malley, who looked like the sheepdog he was playing in 101 Dalmatians, and I can't remember the name. Floyd, the last one who was the hound. It was a wonderful.
Oh, the dog was Thurl Ravenscroft.
Thurl Ravenscroft, always had a deep voice on big hit songs, you know. So mostly it was J. Pat O'Malley and me. We had, I think, about 4 or 5 sessions through 1959 into 1960 on that. And he was such a lovely man. He was so funny.
They were sketching you, right?
Yeah, this was a strange thing, Roy. While Pat and I were working, there was a man sitting at my feet and a man sitting at his feet sketching us. Oh, I didn't know he was sketching us. I could see somebody cross-legged on the floor, scribbling on some paper. And it turned out that he was putting part of our real selves into the cat in my case and the dog in Pat's case. So that's how they got these creatures to seem so lifelike. I think, you know, they incorporated the actor into the cartoon, into the animation.
A caricaturist pointed this out a couple of years ago. He said, I was watching Tales of Terror and I knew Sergeant Tibbs really well, but I didn't know what David really looked like. And he said, watching Tales of Terror, he thought, David looks like Sergeant Tibbs. They managed to put his, and if you look at those 2 films and put the characters together, you can see they sort of fit David's face of the time onto a cat physiognomy. And so, yeah.
That was a major disappointment, though, when I finished, that I hadn't met Walt Disney. I thought, oh, well, at least I'm working for him, and that's a compliment in itself. You know?
Yeah, no, definitely. Because, I mean, especially, you know, the stature and everything with him. But going back to what Jonathan was saying, too, just about that, to be able to do that, what a talent, and the way that, you know, to do a caricature and to essentially almost emote your persona through art like that, and then to be recognizable. I mean, it's what a gift.
Yeah, it's one thing to do a caricature, but to animate characters.
Right. Fortunately, I loved cats. I've always had a cat. Got one right now. I hope she keeps quiet while we're talking to you. Know? And so, you know, it's almost second nature to me to be a cat. So I'm glad I got the job. Yeah.
No, and that's a part of Disney history right there as well.
Yeah. So if you like, while I was doing that, there were big gaps, you know, between the recording sessions. Walt Disney was preparing a 2-part television show to be called The Colorado River Story, about the charting of the Colorado River. And luckily, while I was still working as the cat, he cast me as 9 brave Americans and 1 drunken Englishman. So I was cast as the drunken Englishman. But the big plus about that was, well, 2 pluses. We went on location to Moab in Utah, and we're still sending this footage back to Walt Disney for his television show. The moment he saw those marvelous arches, called the Arches National Monument, he phoned William Bodine, really very old but brilliant director, and said, no, make it a feature. So we were only going to be there for 2 weeks. We all had to run out and buy socks and underwear because we were going to stay there for 6. So we stayed in Moab during that time. And I worked with a wonderful actor called L.Q. Jones, and we were the 2 heavy drinkers in one of the boats. Were rowing down the Colorado, you know, charting it and writing down the depths and so on. And I think one day, we were actually fighting over a bottle of whiskey in the boat, and we both had to fall into the real Colorado in November. Whoa, children, and froze the bones off us. Just off camera, across the mighty flowing Colorado, were stuntmen with ropes to catch us in case we got swept away. So we really did fall into this icy river, and all of that footage was done on location. And Bagwell came to the studio for about, I think, a week to 10 days of interiors. And of course, the magic word came out. LQ and I we're up behind a green screen. I hope your viewers know what it is. You know, it's the background of the river, and we're rowing against it. And then word came, Walt's in the studio. Oh, God. LQ and I were way up high on the roof of the studio, and there's Walt Disney down there saying, "Hi, fellas." I thought I'll never get to meet him. But of course, we had scenes on the ground, and the moment came when he came on the set the second day, and LQ and I were actually standing on solid ground. And I said, "Can I speak to him? You know, can you talk to God?" And he said, "Of course you can." So I held up my hand. "It's a privilege and an honor to meet you, Mr. Disney." And he said, "Nah, round here, everybody calls me Walt."
Aww.
Well, he came on the set every day. I couldn't do it. I tried to go, "Whoa, Mr." I was always Mr. Disney. The man was a legend. He was the only studio head who was actually hands-on, you know, creating the product, not just in charge of the policy of the studio. And he was such a gentle man. That's one of the great thrills of my life. I was 11 when I saw Snow White and the Seven Dwarfs, never dreaming that I would be shaking his hand one day.
Wow, that's a story in itself. I mean, especially too the fact that he said, "No, call me Walt."
Yeah, he said, nah, call me Walt. Around here, everybody does. Couldn't do it.
Just to read some of the comments that just came through. Michelle had commented before. Thurl Ravenscroft loved him. Did Tony the Tiger and many other voices. Let me see. Sue said, "That's fascinating that the animator drew facial characteristics from the actor and incorporated them into the animated character."
True.
Tony Williams said Bodine went back to silent days, directing Mary Pickford in Sparrows, one of her most touching films.
You're quite right. I think he was about 90 then, and he wore puttees, you know, the old-fashioned way that directors worked in silent days. And I kept thinking, well, I hope he's up to the job. Well, he was. He was a damn good director in his 90s. William Bodine, yes.
And let me see here. Jeff Rubel commented, said, "Yeah, arches are too good not to use in a film." And Tony said, "LQ, future pick and paw, red-necked peckerwood."
That's right. In the Peck and Paw films. Yeah.
LQ was really a character. I think he's still with us. I hope he is.
He recently died.
Oh,
but this is cool. In 2012, our friend Jim Hollyfield, who was the co-writer on the cover of David's book, took us to the Memphis Film Festival. And you met James Drury from 10 Who Dared after 50 or something years.
Mm-hmm.
And we heard LQ Jones was there.
Yeah.
But we couldn't find him anywhere. And they said he hates sitting at tables. He won't sign things, or he won't sell autographs. So what he would do is, they said he's off in a dining room there. So he would just sit and let fans come up and sign things, but he didn't want to do any of the money. And so David walked up to him and hadn't seen him in 50 years or more. And so Jim introduced him and said, "LQ, this is David Frankham, who you were in with 10 Who Dare." And LQ Jones just like started a conversation like he was picking up on a conversation from 50 years earlier. And he was totally nonplussed. He was like the coolest person ever. And he just started talking to him like they had just last met a few days ago.
Yeah. Wonderful actor, of course, and a wonderful man. Really,
he was great. Yeah.
Aww. And you said he just passed just a few years ago, or a couple of years ago.
I think maybe a year or two.
Yeah.
I may be mistaken, but he could have been in. I think he was in the Zorro movie. I think it was Antonio Banderas's. I think he had a part in that.
Oh, did he? Oh, good.
I'm not, unless I'm mistaking him with another.
Chris LaRoche just said was a semi-regular in the Virginian series too.
Zorro.
Yeah, I'm not sure. Wow, though, that's wonderful though. You were having a conversation with, just the way it started back up though. It's like no time had passed though.
Yeah. You know, it's sad to get the monthly Screen Actors Guild magazine because they have 2 pages of obituaries, and I'm at the point now when I hate to open it because I know I'm going to find a friend's name there, and I have almost every time. I know I'll be on that list one day, but not until I'm 101.
Wow.
He was in Zorro.
Oh, he was.
I just he was in the beginning of the movie. Yeah.
Oh, wow.
Oh, thanks for checking that, Ross.
Yeah.
And Chris said, "Oh, last year last year he passed. He played
Three-fingered.
Three-Fingered
Yeah.
Jack Nazaro.
Hmm.
And David, I wanted to ask you about Tales of Terror.
Loved
About
it.
that experience.
That was part of a film with 3 stories in it, and so each one I think lasted about 50 minutes, I believe. And so when I got my script, I always wanted to know who was in it. I knew Vincent was. Basil Rathbone was in it. I thought, oh my gosh, I'll have my work cut out. He'll just slice me. He'll kill me. He's so brilliant. And so on the first day, Roger Corman had a luncheon for Vincent, for Basil, and for Deborah Paget. And we were the youngsters at that time in the movie. And I think that was just Roger's way of breaking the ice with us. Basil Rathbone sat opposite me, and I'm sitting, is he going to be nice? Is he going to be the way he was with David Copperfield? Oh, God. Well, Basil and Vincent were like Abbott and Costello. Those two had us laughing of all 5 days. We shot it in 5 days, laughing at their jokes, so wonderfully funny. Basil Rathbone had the enthusiasm of a teenager. He never tired. By the end of a long shooting day, I was tired. Not Basil. He was still laughing and slapping backs and things. And again, 5 years later, nobody knew that we had worked together before. I was cast as his son in a 2-part episode of The Thin Man. I believe it was
Dr. Kildare.
Dr. Kildare.
Yeah.
And so this time was really even more exciting because the first time I took a cab to the studio, I think Basil lived in the East, but flew out, of course, staying in a hotel. He took a cab to the studio. And our call was for 7:30, and we met before that. I told him where I was coming. He said, well, my dear fellow, we could share a cab. I'm going to share a cab. So we did for the next 4 days. This famous profile would come through my garden gate and say, oh, we're here, my dear fellow. Are you ready? Come on, here we go. And off we would go to MGM. He liked to get there half an hour before the shoot, or before his call. So what he did each morning, he gave me a tour of the back lot. He was, my dressing room, enormous Shearer there, Garbo there, yes. He was like a walking tour guide. I tried to remember everything he told me about that half hour each day, He was a wonderfully funny man and a brilliant actor, of course.
That must have been.
I think my highlight of Tales of Terror, although I loved working with Deborah Paget, of course, and naturally with Vincent, but just, working with a legend, a long-time legend like Basil was a huge privilege for me, huge.
And that must have been so I'll say cool, but just such an experience, positive experience to be having that tour that he was giving you too. I mean, of the studio and everything, and everything history.
I thought I'd be at a loss for words, which I probably would have been, but Basil never shut up. He loved to talk. I never had to worry about jumping in with something, Yeah. Oh God, he was so good, so good.
Yeah.
Tony Williams is asking if didn't Star Trek's The Green Girl Susan appear in that episode? I think he's referring to Susan Oliver. I'm not sure.
Oh, I worked. Yes, I worked. I love Susan Oliver, a fine actress. I'm beginning to sound as though I hated everybody I worked with. There are a few exceptions. Susan Oliver was one of the great ones. She was cool. She just glided through that role in that television show. Yeah, lovely actress. I really liked her so much.
Yeah, she was really wonderful in her roles, and if I remember correctly, I believe she broke a record is in regards to flying. She was the first. It was an aviation type record, and I'm not exactly sure what she did, but she was a pilot. And sadly, though, she passed away at a very young age. Though I think from cancer.
Oh, of course, I didn't know that.
Yeah,
well, I'm proud of having worked with her.
But no, that's okay. Ross, I'm sorry.
No, I was going to say, before we get too far off of Tales of Terror, I wanted to mention, Ben is here, and he made that film, the House of the Seven Gables. I mean, clearly, you must have been a fan of the American International Pictures.
Oh, absolutely. Yeah, no, that film was sort of a love letter to those very colorful, slightly psychedelic takes on Edgar Allan Poe stories. Absolutely. Yeah.
And for people who go look at them, the characters look like caricatures of Vincent Price and the lovable later Peter Lorre. And I think Boris Karloff's in there and Basil Rathbone in a quick shot.
Sidney Greenstreet.
Yeah, Michael Gough. Yeah,
Yes,
I fit a lot of people, a lot of different caricatures in there, as many as I could.
Yeah.
And I was so pleased because I always feel like these guys are going to die out with our generation, and clearly you're a little younger and you are into these things.
Oh no, I was only raised on things from the 30s onward. So
so I was pleased, but both with that and with Homecoming to see so many in jokes and so many homages.
Yeah, I do my best.
And for anybody who doesn't know what I'm talking about, this is an adaptation that was done in 2018, was it?
Oh, House of Seven Gables was 2018.
2018. What did I say? 2018, yes.
Yes, the Homecoming was, I think, 2016.
Right. So this is a half hour, 27-minute short, animated short, and it is on YouTube, and people can Google this. And
David, can you tell about how you met Ben?
May we show this?
Absolutely.
When I first met David, I did this painting for him to show what his character would look like, or what Jonathan's character would look like as a young David.
Can you tell about the video you did for David and surprised him on his 90th birthday?
We became Facebook friends because I'm such a big. I'm a fan of all of Vincent's films, but Tales of Terror is one that is really close to my heart. Sort of the film that really started my undying love and devotion for Vincent Price, and the Poe films. And I found David on Facebook, and I thought, oh my gosh, he's about to turn 90, and I didn't know what to say.
I was younger then, you see.
Yes. I didn't know what to say, so I thought, I'll do a little video tribute. I was at Cal Arts at the time, and I just searched the wide world of the internet, trying to find as many clips, however many deep cuts I could find from little episodes and films, and as much as I could of with David in it. And I put some music behind it, and I did it as a sort of 90th birthday, a little present, a little tribute, I suppose.
So meantime, I walked into the room to see the circle of much of my work from this Facebook friend whom I'd never spoken to.
What had happened is I found it on David's Facebook, and I'm like, oh my God.
On my birthday.
Because it's not just a bunch of clips. It was edited so cleverly, like a scene of David lashing out and a scene of David falling backwards. So, and I said to David, you've got to come see this. You've got to see what this young person did.
So we flew out to California and we met. And why was I coming out to California?
Well, first we talked on the phone, right?
Yes.
And because David just wanted to thank Ben.
Yeah.
And Ben was like, well, I'm doing this graduate school film, and could you do a voice for it?
I was doing my thesis film. I'm from Massachusetts, and I'm from the Salem area. So Hawthorne's story of the House of the Seven Gables was always loomed large in my life, as a book, but also as a place that you can visit, as a museum in Salem. And since 2013, I was trying to make a stop motion adaptation of it. And when it came to my thesis film in 2018 or 2017, when we met, I got up the gumption, I suppose, to ask David, could he, I've got a sort of Rankin Bass / Roger Corman Poe film adaptation of Hawthorne's story. It's sort of a love letter to Tales of Terror, but also to Master of the World and these Vincent Price films. Would you be the narrator, the storyteller that sort of binds the film together? And I got to know him and Jonathan, and
I narrated it with this director. Ben was our director, sitting cross-legged on the floor, listening to me and directing me.
Tell me about meeting Ben.
That was the most informal meeting with Ben. Actually, as we got to the studio and I held up my hand to say hi, this young man leapt at me. He said, "Hi, you're here at last!" And then he jumped off me and jumped on Jonathan. This young fella is so enthusiastic. Wow. So we had a great time, didn't we? I hope we did.
We did. I
Recording, yeah.
scheduled at a little recording studio in the school. I scheduled 2 hours, and we were finished 15 minutes before we were set to record because we arrived early and we did only a few takes, and you had memorized like a true professional
4 pages, yeah.
4 pages of dialogue. He did 2 brilliant takes, or 3. And we were off to the races. We were off to lunch where I gave him my painting.
I have to say it is a wonderful production, and I've been speaking with Jonathan about it and everything, and watching it, and I shared it with Ross and everything. And Ben, you did an amazing job with that, and kudos to you. And it's really it's a masterpiece, a wonderful piece of art, and everything you wanted to convey in it really came out, and it was so enjoyable. And then also Ray Bradbury's The Homecoming as well too. So I just it was again the two.
To distill the House of the Seven Gables into 27 minutes. So, and with such it wasn't just a series of images. It was just wholly realized with how you handled the camera angles and how you would do the cuts. And Jonathan, you were great in it. You did a great young David.
I played the young version of David. Yeah.
Although
you don't know that till the end.
You don't know that till the end. But what you do have to say is between David's voice and Jonathan's brilliant music. I mean, the score is gorgeous. You can listen to it on your own, and it stands up by itself as a beautiful piece of art.
And that's actually on YouTube as well. My music for it.
And those two
things are the link right now to to it on so that the folks out there can actually check it out.
I have to tell the blessing that ultimately came to it, because David has said, and I know I feel this way, that we're as proud of that as anything we've done.
Yes.
But the real blessing came from Ben went back to the real House of the Seven Gables in Salem, and they said they wanted to show it there. And so we went to see that, and we were like right by the House of the Seven Gables in their visitor center.
Yeah.
And then we did a tour of the house, and I was saying to Ben, you got the wallpaper completely accurate in miniature. So he's been adopted by the real House of the Seven Gables. But also at that time in Boston at the time was Victoria Price, Vincent's daughter. So she came and we did a panel discussion afterwards. And so it got the blessing of the Vincent Price. Jody Price, Vincent's grandson, saw it. And I think he said something like, "This is the best film that my grandfather never did." That he appears in that he never did. Something like that.
Victoria is tireless. I think she goes around the world keeping her father's name alive. Has she ever been on your show? She's awfully nice.
No, I would love to have her on the show.
You'll love her. She's such a nice lady.
Yeah.
And there was also such a great kind of Edward Gorey vibe to the production.
Thank you.
You know what?
I'm the animation director for the upcoming Gorey documentary that's been happening for quite a long time. So
you're the perfect guy.
Thank you.
They got the right guy.
They couldn't get the rights to gory artwork, so Ben has been doing animations in the gory style that are so accurate it tricks people into thinking you're looking at gory artwork.
Okay.
They're great.
Even in the Homecoming, like going back to the Homecoming with the bat wings.
Oh, thank you.
Totally reminded me of that. Yeah.
Oh,
so good.
Thank you very much.
And we didn't mention also that you were part of the Academy Award nominated team for Marcel the Shell with Shoes On.
That's right. That's right. Yeah. We started in early 2020, and I just started out as an animation assistant. Just making sure that all the animators need what they need and all that. And then COVID happened. Within 2 weeks of production, we all went home, and 5 months later, we had less animators because many of them had moved on to other things. And so I was sort of an emergency animator. So I got to animate quite a few shots for the film, which I didn't expect to do. So I'm very, very proud to worked on it.
And you
It's a
were-
sweet film.
Animating to Isabella Rossellini's voice.
Yep.
Ah,
You worked with Isabella Rossellini.
Yeah. It's fantastic.
So
And
Ben,
John-
you said you grew up with the movies then, as far as watching them at a very young age.
So to me, or
Oh,
did
no,
it-
yeah.
David, you're talking to David.
yes, yeah, I was 13. Well, I was 11 when I saw Snow White and the Seven Dwarfs. Yeah.
Movies were silent when David was born.
Yeah, they were.
imagine that.
Yeah.
Uh-huh. My parents wanted me to be an architect. Their reason for that is they opened one of my homework books, and down the margin, I had drawn Snow White and all of the dwarfs. That gave my poor deluded parents the idea that I might have talent as an architect. I had no talent whatsoever, but they paid fees and put me through architecture school for 2 years, 16, 17, 18. Then, of course, the war came along. And so luckily, I never had to resume another 3 years of study as an architect, because in Kuala Lumpur, I joined Radio Kuala Lumpur unofficially. Of course, I was in the army, but they just had me on once a week. My kind of music, and David Frankham hopes it's your kind of music too. So I had this half hour once a week. And at the end of that, when we were all scheduled to go back home to civilian life in England, I said, can't I just stay here and read? No, you can't. It's a government allocation. We already have 2 announcers. You were just a bonus, David. Sorry, we can't. But I'll give you a letter of introduction to the BBC. And that started my 7 years with the BBC, thanks to Mr. Jackson, the manager of Radio Malaya in Kuala Lumpur.
Wow.
And he got to escape being an architect.
And I got to escape, yeah.
And he got to interview Alec Guinness, who later started his acting career in Hollywood.
But in England, Guinness, at the end, he was a guest on my radio show. At the end of it, off the air, I said, I'm so dying to be an actor, Mr. Guinness. He was Mr. then. Could you give me any advice? How old are you? I'm 29. Too old, he said. You should have begun carrying a spear at Stratford. Well, at 21, I was in the army, so I couldn't, So in England, he turned me down. Going home that night, I thought, well, if Guinness says I'm too old to be an actor, I'm too old to be an actor. I thought, where else in the world? Well, Canada, New York, Hollywood. So from then on, from that day I got home from being turned down by Alec Guinness, I decided all of my American guests, I'm going to ask them, do you think I could make a living as in radio? I thought sneakily, I'll start in radio, work into movies later on. And so my first guest was Doris Day, whom I adored, but she was going to Africa to do The Man Who Knew Too Much. So she was focused on that, as she should be. So after a while, another guest came on, Jose Ferrer. And his wife, of course, was then the enormously popular Rosemary Clooney. I call her my fairy godmother because we did our chat together. We laughed all through it, went off the air. And I said to Rosemary, do you think I could make a living as in radio in Hollywood? And she said, call me when you get there. The magic words. I had no red tape at the American Embassy. Her name just got me through everything. And sure enough, she was as good as her word. When she got there, she was sending me out to all the disc jockeys in LA. Marvelous lady. Still, oh God, I love that lady. I love that lady.
And the fact that she was somebody of her word like that, that's
Yes.
wonderful.
Yes.
Too.
Oh, yes.
Somebody just came. Danette Sillis is out there, and she says, "Happy birthday,
Hi.
David."
Hi.
Oh.
Jonathan, I want to go back to just to ask you in regards to the music for the movie for the House of Seven Gables. There's a documentary that's on YouTube, which I also just shared, but just to let everybody know about actually how that, as far as composing it, and that was something that you had almost like in your mind previously in regards to the tune.
It was funny. It was like, okay, let's go back to the phone call where Ben's little video showed up on David's birthday, and we arranged to talk to him to say thank you. And Ben asked if David could do the voice. And And we had looked up Ben's animations, his student animations on YouTube already to see, okay, does he have any talent, or is he any good, or does he seem like a jerk? So we were looking at your student animations and going, forget David being a movie actor star. We want to work with this guy. So we were so excited to talk to him. So we were on this phone call, and I just coincidentally read The House of the Seven Gables not long before, just out of pure coincidence. I had become a big Nathaniel Hawthorne fan. So we clicked over all the humor in Nathaniel Hawthorne, which people don't think is there.
Yeah.
But during the course of this, I said, well, I know there's a harpsichord in it, and I have this tune that I've been playing probably for 15 or 20 years that I had written years before. And I said, it's kind of gothic-y and almost Danny Elfman-like, and it would sound great on a harpsichord. So you can use it if you want. And David says it's like the old movies about the Tin Pan Alley composers. He held the phone over the piano when I played it.
He played it over the phone.
This is how we did it, held the phone over the piano.
And at the end, Ben, I remember how you put it too. You said, well, I'm not just saying this to be nice, but that completely captures the whole spirit of the movie.
Everything I was going for.
And he said, could you write the music for it too?
Yeah.
And I'm like, okay. And I said, well, yeah, I'd always wanted to write some film music just to see what it's like.
Yeah.
Because I write songs, which I'm proud of, but it's a whole different way of thinking than composing and taking a little fragment and expanding on it. And so, well, yeah, great. Okay, I'd love to do that. So Ben would send originally these animatics, they're called little scribbly drawings, but with the real soundtrack.
Yes, it's basically the storyboard images with the audio.
So I had the timing to it.
Yes.
Oh, because originally I thought, well, the film hasn't been made. What do I write to?
Yes, I only had 9 months to make the film. I was still in school,
So first I was thinking maybe I could do like on the old TV series where you have a stock library of moods, and I can provide that, and then he could piece it all together. But with the animatics, I actually started getting this, I could get the timing, the flow of a whole scene.
Yeah.
And I'd sit and watch it on my computer here and sit there and work out variations of that original whole theme.
Yeah, it guided the story in such a beautiful way. It wasn't just needle drop. It wasn't just something added. It was the music itself was a storyteller.
So it was great because I love film music, and I love interviews with the composers and hearing how they think and figure it out. And I was actually finally experiencing it. Like, okay, this is where you do the opposite. They talk about you do the opposite of what's on the screen. Okay, got that. How one instrument can convey a certain character. So when that character comes back, that instrument comes back. So all that thinking behind it was, I love doing all that.
Yeah.
Some of it was so weird because it was instinctive because I didn't do it in order. Like Ben first sent me a scene from the middle here.
Yeah.
I think first the title credits and something from the middle.
Everything was out of sequence. Yeah.
And something I did instinctively, like I remember at the beginning, I think, I just feel like right before the very beginning, something like dee 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 dee, and I said this ambiguous chord, and this is our frame of reference. I say, at the beginning of Gumby, the Gumby titles, there's these ambiguous chords. Well, I feel it needs the Gumby chord. So we refer to that as the Gumby chord.
The Gumby chord. The film starts with a Gumby chord.
And I said, I have no idea why it's there. Just sort of an arpeggiated Gumby chord.
Yeah.
And then later on, I did several other scenes, and I realized, oh, that's the theme for sort of the obsession for greed and wealth and stuff. And that little ambiguous sequence popped into a scene later, like here, and made perfect sense, and then tied into the very ending. By the end, Ben had run out of his animatics. Like the film was due the next day.
Yeah.
And he said, could you write like some tonight? A minute and a half of music for the ending. And he said, I don't have anything to send you. But by then, I knew how the film had to end. The whole thing's in like A minor.
Yeah.
And I knew that these themes would have to tie together. So I did it in a way that it all tied together and ended on A major, because the audience has been waiting for a major chord for the last 28 minutes. Boom, there it is.
Yeah.
So it worked so well together. It was just
unnaturally. We were on the same wavelength the entire time. And we were always in complete, accord of what this scene needed and when this mood should click in and when this should happen. It was
There was
wonderful.
one part I remember.
It was spooky, is what it was.
Pretty spooky.
Yeah.
But there was one part I got to experience what film composers talk about too, where they say, "Oh, sometimes the scene needs a little help." And I'm sorry to say that, Ben. But,
No, it's true.
But he had a scene that had tons of exposition because, like you said, Ross, you pack a novel this thick into 28 minutes, you're going to need some exposition.
Yeah, it got kind of chatty at
And you
some point.
said your classmates watched the scene
Yeah.
and said, "Oh, this is so much talking. It's going on so long." And I was thinking, okay, it needs some help. Like,
Yeah.
what underlying dynamics are going on between them?
Mhm.
So I emphasize that, and who's in the power control, because his instrument comes up, and then her instrument comes up and becomes dominating. And you said you showed it with the music to your classmates, and they
Yes.
said, "Oh, good, you shortened the scene."
Yeah.
No,
They thought
you
I,
didn't.
and I hadn't.
The music moved it
The
along.
music completely moved it along. It didn't feel as long as it was.
Well,
Thanks
that
to-
ties into what Michelle just said, because she's saying music should enhance the film or the show, and in that case, that's what's happening. And it's the music can represent a character or the tone of the movie or the show, and it, as in this case, which it did, perfectly, beautifully.
It is amazing how, you have the technique, but so much of it is intuition and, just happenstance. And then, as you say, once the pieces start to come together, you know where it's going. And all creativity is like that. You sit down and there's so many variables.
Very much. Yeah.
David and I still watch the film sometimes. We just put it on and we go, "This is really good. We can't quite believe we did this."
Yeah, good job, guys. So much talent in this one frame. Look at
Thank
this.
you. I think the heart of the movie is these two wonderful men and the friendship that we created during the making of it. I mean, I'll cherish that forever.
Yes, we will.
Yeah.
Ben was last year, 5 years ago today, for a showing of The House of the Seven Gables at the Santa Fe Film Festival. Oh, and Danette Sills in the comments introduced us at the film festival.
Yeah.
But that was so great. And now 5 years later, here is Ben showing up at our house again.
Yeah.
That's really nice, and I'm glad we can have you, speaking with us and in the audience too. And sharing that, which makes it that much more special. So thank you for that. Michelle commented. She said, "Like Prokofiev," and I knew,
Prokofiev.
forget my pronunciation. Did in Peter and the Wolf, instruments equals character.
Exactly.
Character.
It's like these little shorthand things. As you hear that instrument, it calls to mind that character. And
Oh, did you use a real harpsichord or was it an electronic?
it was an electronic with a really good sample of a real one on it.
Yeah. I was wondering. It's like, did they go find a harpsichord or is that an electronic harpsichord?
Yeah. But at one point he had a little. There's right behind him is a little toy
piano.
Little toy piano.
Creepy.
It's very creepy. Yes. So some of that shows up in the film too.
And a little bit of an electronic organ.
Different organ sounds.
Yeah,
So
it was
cool.
great. Good job. Yeah, thumbs up.
Jack Daly's joining us, and he says hello.
Hello.
Hi, Jack. Thanks for being out there. Tony also commented before, Vincent did appear in the 1940 film version of The House of Seven Gables.
Right, with George Sanders. Right.
Yeah.
He was much younger than the American International films, though.
Much younger.
And
And May is joining us, and she's saying hello to everybody. She's in a little late. She had a closing shift tonight. Thanks for joining us, May, and thanks for being here for David's birthday.
Thank you. Yes.
And let me see here. Just want to make sure I'm catching up with everybody's comments. Didn't want to leave anybody behind. Sue said, thank you for the link. So yes, definitely folks, check those links out, and that'll take you directly to the YouTube videos that we were just talking about.
Good.
So you definitely want, which is really, really good. And let me see here. Also, the other thing I wanted to touch upon, because Dave Rash will not forgive me, and somebody was asking before, David, in regards to 2 Outer Limit episodes that you did,
Yes.
which are classics, and we are just it's crazy to think too. The Outer Limits just had a birthday, celebrating the 60th anniversary, and we were celebrating that when we connected in last year. Convention, and you were in the 2 episodes, and I'm going to share that just so folks can see that. And that was in Nightmare.
Oh,
that's Nightmare first.
oh gosh. That was my favorite of the two. It's a beautiful script by that famous man, of course, and all the actors were fine. I'd never worked with a black actor before. Bill Gunn was superb. Everybody was. Martin Sheen was, I think, just beginning to make his impact on the industry, because I think John Erman, who directed Nightmare episode, was driving to work each day and he would see Martin Sheen hitchhiking to get to the studio. But
jeez.
when we each prepared for our interrogation scene, we all crowded around an empty soundstage and watched Martin Sheen running around the wall of that empty soundstage nonstop to get himself worked up for the part. We all knew, I'm sure I know, I know, that he was going to really make an impact in the industry, which of course he has, yeah. Brilliant. But I think we all were. I think we were all damn good in that, thanks to John Erman's direction. And of course, the script, the screenplay, yes.
A few years ago, before the pandemic, we were watching PBS and Martin Sheen was hosting a show on music. And David started reminiscing about him. And I said, well, I'll look for an address for him. I found one online. So David wrote a letter to Martin Sheen saying, remember me. And I think probably within a week, we got a note back from Martin Sheen. And he said, I can't believe we're the only two still among the quick, is how he put it.
Yeah. He said, let's stay in touch. Yeah. Yeah.
Wow. That's nice, so that you were able to converse a little bit back and forth like that.
Yeah.
Then.
Yeah.
Martin Sheen was, I think, if I'm not Martin Sheen was probably like in his early 20s when he did that episode. I'm guessing.
Like his second IMDb credit.
Yeah, I would think
Maybe
so.
first.
I would think so. Yeah.
Michelle commented. She said the outer limits always scared me.
It was supposed to.
Yeah, exactly.
And that's one of the most memorable episodes, I think.
Yeah.
It's usually
Oh,
considered
yeah.
one of the top two anyway,
Yeah.
according to polls of fans.
The second one was good too. It had, of course, as its major guest star, the brilliant Miriam Hopkins. And I had some, good scenes in it, but not with her. She hadn't appeared. I was filming my two little scenes, and the door opened, and in swept Miriam Hopkins of the little foxes of Jezebel,
Dr. Jekyll and Mr. Hyde.
Oh God, legendary.
Becky Sharp.
And she said, well, here I am. I'm here. You can reach me at the hotel for rewrites. Away she went, well, you don't have rewrites in television, Miss Hopkins. So I don't know how the cast and crew dealt with that, because I had no scenes with her, but she was at the hotel waiting for the rewrites, which would not exist. Of course, it was already written. So I wish I had scenes with her, because I loved her. I understand, not easy to work with, but well worth it. Brilliant lady.
Dave just commented, said Nightmare and Don't Open Till Doomsday are my favorite episodes. Dave Roush just said that.
Oh, so thank you,
Roy,
Dave. Thank you.
Roy, could you mention what Dave Rash is working on?
Yes, in fact, Dave is instrumental in regards to the Outer Limits and keeping the torch burning, and he's been working directly with Dominic Stefano, for this Joseph Stefano's son, in regards to books and scripts that have been coming out. So it is available, the second book, and I wish I had the first one available off to my side, and I don't, so I apologize for that, Dave, but I will share a link on the show's page in regards. Oh, and David is doing that. It's right there. So there's the first book.
You've done the illustrations.
I've done a few illustrations.
He did
illustrations for the unfilmed
Jonathan
episodes.
did the illustrations
For unfilmed episodes, Dave asked me.
Yeah.
But
What will you do, Jonathan?
I know. I'm a Renaissance man.
What I don't do is anything useful that's valued by our society.
Yeah.
So I can't cook a meal. I can't fix a car. I can't do plumbing.
He is they both are quite brilliant. I'm so proud to have them as my friends. I really am.
And David has autographed the special super limited edition version of both of the volumes, this one and the one coming out. So
Yes, I would say if you are an Outer Limits fan, you definitely want to get these books, because I mean, so much care and love has been put into these books, and Dave is very passionate, and he's, like I said, he's worked with Dominic Stefano, who's been on with with us and has been on with David and Jonathan as well. And Dave is like the keeper of the gate. So anything in regards to Outer Limits. So thanks for reminding me to do that too, Jonathan. It's
Here's
hard.
a sneak preview of an unfilmed episode.
Oh,
Yeah,
That's all
Jonathan's
you get
been
to see of it.
Jonathan's been beautifully painting scenes from the unfilmed episodes, and they fit that world. They look
can you see it?
as they they
Dave,
look like stills from the show.
Dave, can I show the other two?
They're beautiful.
You'll say yes or no. Let's see.
Yeah, let us know if they can be shared, Dave.
Dave says nice.
Well, Dave has already shared this one. There's a legendary episode called The Cats, right, Dave? He says, please do.
Oh,
Oh, good.
Yay!
The
Okay.
Cats is a legendary episode that was never filmed because, from what Dave said, it was too scary about cats being invaded by aliens and
Oh.
taken over, and it would scare all the kids at home.
Oh,
I
yeah.
think they never filmed it because they would have had to film scenes with dozens of cats. But here's my picture of the evil cats.
Oh,
Isn't that
That's so
beautiful?
cool.
oh,
That is
Yeah.
oh.
very
And
nice.
here's a first preview of anyone gets to see this. This is David's third appearance on the Outer Limits. There's an episode. Apparently, Dave, I don't say too much, but nobody knew of this episode
I wasn't.
until Dave discovered it.
I wasn't in a film.
You are now,
What?
because I needed a weird corpse that's transforming into an alien. So as a model, I said, David, lie on this bed for a moment.
Oh, yes, I did. Yes.
So this is David's third appearance on the Outer Limits.
This is so cool.
He's turning into a dead alien vegetable head
Oh,
corpse
oh,
guy.
Very nice.
Oh my God, that is so
So
cool.
that's the first anyone has seen.
It's fantastic artwork, Jonathan.
I
Thank
hope
you
the
for
check is in the mail. Is it?
Hmm.
Okay.
Well, Dave's already paid for it, so it's like I better
Oh.
do a good job.
Thank you, Dave. Yes.
I just wanted to share. Bill Scarrato is out there, my friend from Country Gate Theater. Bill says, "Happy birthday, sir! Congratulations!"
Oh,
So,
thank you. Thank you. I'm just
From you.
David. I'm not sir. Just David.
Oh, David has gotten some great letters from other countries. Like he got one from China saying, "Dear Your Highness David Frankham, I worship you." So he's never let anyone forget that.
Oh gosh.
Mark is out there. Mark, he's saying it's great to hear that about Martin Sheen. Glad you heard back from him.
Good.
Thanks for doing that, Mark, too.
All true. All true. Yes.
And Danette just said Nightmare was an excellent episode and David was fantastic in it. The other episode, Don't Open Till Doomsday, had a much weaker script, but David and the other cast members far surpassed it.
Oh,
That's
how
the
nice.
consensus, I think. Yeah.
Thank you.
Yeah.
Yes. Good.
And Dave Rash just said David Frankham signed both Volume 1 and Volume 2. Just to put
Dave.
that- and
I wonder if Dave Rash knows whether Joseph DiStefano is related to Giuseppe DiStefano in Philadelphia, because he's the founder of Victor Cafe, the opera cafe there,
Oh.
down on I think Reed Street.
Wow.
You know, the DiStefanos were big music lovers, and I'm
you know
not
what?
sure.
They're from. I remember Dominic saying that his family was from
From Philly,
from Philly. Yeah, so
Right,
there could be some kind of
Maybe
connection
they
there.
dropped the D and just went to Stefano.
Ah.
Yeah.
Just, okay.
Hey, and Warren is out there. Warren's joining us from Canada. Hey, Warren, thanks for being
Hi.
out there.
Hi,
He says,
Warren. Thank you.
good evening, all. Happy, wonderful birthday from Canada, David.
Oh, thank you.
And Chris LaRoche is saying, this is so great, amazing artwork, Jonathan.
You, Chris.
Oh.
And Mark just said, it's like when they have you in a recording booth for an animated piece, and they're like, wow, we have you. Dave just said, I will ask Dominic next time I talk to him. Joseph was born in South Philadelphia.
Thanks, Dave.
Yeah, thanks.
Yeah, I was thinking about that before, and it just popped into my head again.
All right, Matt is giving you a compliment, David. He's saying, David has 40 years on me, almost to the day, fellow Aquarius here, and he's got more energy than I've got on my best day.
Oh, thank you. I don't believe a word of it, but thank you anyway.
Oh, that is so cool. The other thing I have to say is we'd love to say on the show, all roads lead to Star Trek. So definitely just want to just touch upon that really quickly. And of course, we were talking about that earlier. But there's the costume that your uniform, the costume that you were wearing in that episode too, and you're pictured with Diana Muldaur.
Oh yes, yes, yes.
From that,
But it didn't begin well, I have to say. Ralph Sinensky was directing. He had arranged a master shot to open that episode with Shatner, Nimoy, me, Diane, this guy who played the Scotsman, James Doohan, all sitting around a table. Well, we were all set to start when we noticed that Shatner and Nimoy weren't sitting with us. They were in a corner of the set having an argument with Gene Roddenberry. We had no idea what it was. Bill Shatner came over to us and said, well, we're in disagreement with Gene, so we're going home and we'll see you tomorrow. So, oh, what? So poor Ralph Sinensky, nothing to shoot. Fortunately, Diana Muldaur and I had learned a scene that was coming up. This was a Monday, the following Thursday. So we rushed over to the next set to do that. And we did get that done. And Shatner and Nimoy resolved their disagreement with Roddenberry, which was a legitimate one. Gene Roddenberry wanted to market a brooch, I think, some kind of diamond. He wanted a mention of it in our script. Well, there was nothing in the script to justify that. So naturally, Shatner and Nimoy said, no, we won't do that.
But you didn't know that till years later.
Oh, no, this is true. This is true. So anyway, we finished that day. And the next day, Shatner and Nimoy were back and everything was calm again. And we got back up to schedule. Yeah. Yeah.
Yeah, so it all worked out, but a little turbulent.
Yeah, that's right. Yeah.
But great memories though. And that, again, going back onto the set tour like 50 years later, though, that must have just, again, covering all that, just the memories.
Yes, extraordinarily emotional feeling to see all that. I knew where on the wall. I had rehearsed it with the handheld camera, brilliant cameraman, by the way, and I walked it through with him where I was to go mad and eventually die. And so we marked places on the wall where I would stay while I would gradually go crazy. And the marks weren't on the wall, but I knew where they had been. And to see them again all these years later was an extraordinary experience. Yeah. Yeah.
You mentioned George Takei greeting you.
Oh, yes.
This was in Knoxville, at a convention.
Not very long.
Oh, wait, no. First of all, go on.
No, please go.
First, you tell about him greeting you on set.
Oh, yes. I was the first one on set, just, with reporting to the studio for the first time. George Takei came across the set and said, welcome aboard the Enterprise. No member of any cast has ever said that to me in any show I've ever been in. I was so impressed by George Takei. Now, an update then will
I think about 3 years ago, we were at a convention in Knoxville, Tennessee, where William Shatner was there, Walter Koenig, and George Takei. And David was like, I would really like to thank him for that. So we asked his handlers, and they managed to sneak David in before the long line.
There was a long line for George. Yeah.
Oh, sure.
David got to go up and thank George Takei finally after 50 years.
Yeah,
for his nice greeting, and
that
was just somebody videoed it.
Yeah.
Oh, very nice.
Oh, it was a lovely moment. Yeah.
Put it on David's Facebook. Maybe we could do it again. It's just a little interaction there.
Yeah.
That's so cool.
Wonderful man, George Takei. Yeah.
I just got a message from Edwin Thrower, and he's in California, but he's at a Doctor Who Doctor Who convention. So anyway, I'm just putting the comment up and see if I can share it. He said, we are at the Doctor Who convention in LA, but we are thinking of him. And he wanted me to relay that to you, David.
Oh, gosh. How nice. Thank you very much.
So I just wanted to send that. Him and Rachel are both in California. And Ruby just said, what a great story that you just shared about George Takei.
Yeah.
And Michelle was also commenting. She said, in regards to being on the set tour wearing the original costume in Ticonderoga. She was just commenting about that as well, too.
Yeah. Awesome. That was awesome. Even with part of me not quite fitting, sticking out at the back where no one could see me.
And he did a good cut out the ice cream and the Little Debbie
Oh,
snack cakes for about a month.
Oh, crash diet. I'll never get into that costume, but I did.
Well, I have a surprise for you, and I'm going to bring the surprise on, and she is super punctual. She's right on time, and she is Mimi Gibson.
Mimi! Hello! Oh, Mimi, Mimi has written a book. Mimi, I love your book. It's like you. It's feisty, right in your face. No bullshit. It's a great, great story. You're a fine writer, Mimi.
Oh, thank you, David. You're so sweet. And if I wasn't losing my mind, I'd be reading yours. But we're selling our house, and it's quite a job.
Oh, it's wonderful to see you. My God, there you are.
And just to let everybody know out there, Mimi and David had worked in regards to on the same film together, and it was 101 Dalmatians, and
Yes,
we were just talking about that earlier.
She was the #1 puppy, weren't you? Weren't you, Mimi?
Of course I was, David. And you were the #1 kitty.
Oh.
Okay, so in honor of your birthday, David, I wrote you a limerick.
Oh.
So I'm going to read you your limerick.
All right.
This is a limerick for Sergeant Tibbs in 101 Dalmatians. There once was a young man named David who declared, life is just what you make it. An actor I'll be, like a cat with Dalmatian puppies. It's great playing a part where I'm naked.
That's true. He doesn't wear any clothes.
Oh, Mimi, that's wonderful. Thank you so much. Oh, gosh.
I am so happy that you were able to make it on, Mimi. This was
yes, indeed. Mimi, this is a great surprise. Thank you so much for making my birthday a real birthday.
To everyone out there, we met Mimi a couple of years ago at a convention, and their tables were together, and we just hit it off, didn't we? I just felt immediately comfortable with you.
Yes, her energy. Yes, oh gosh, yes.
So it's been lovely.
She's feisty. You're feisty, Mimi. Always stay feisty. Give them help. Thank you, Mimi. Thank you.
Now, it's an honor to be here with you. David, I mean, 98 for crying out loud, and you look terrific, and you've got all your faculties. Yay!
Yeah. Well, we'll meet again during this year somewhere, Mimi. I hope at an event. We will, I hope.
I hope so. Hey, listen, you guys. Keep down over there. My dogs are playing. Of course, they do that to get on the phone. Anyway, that would be the highlight of my year if we could.
Mine too, Mimi. Yes.
So I'll have to beat somebody up and get them to hire.
All right.
Okay.
Yes.
Thanks so much for stopping on, Mimi.
Oh, yes.
Bye-bye.
Bye, Mimi. Thank
you.
you.
Bye, sweethearts, all of you.
Talk to you soon.
We'll see you, Mimi. Yes.
I hear those Dalmatians in the back.
It's black pugs.
I was
So if I want to leave, what do I do? If I leave, should I leave? Should I stay? What should I do?
You are welcome to stay, but if you need to leave, that's fine too. You let me know what you want to do.
Oh, I don't know. I want to do whatever David wants me to do.
I want you to stay.
Okay.
Good. Okay.
And we were looking up Mimi's credits just so you all know, and I'm like, I've seen like a zillion of these things were in as a child.
Wow.
Jesse's roles. I remember this really good little girl actress from, and it all turns out to be you. So
On the cover of Mimi's book, she's on the cover with Sophia Loren, no less. Yeah.
Yeah.
There's the book. Wow.
Uh-huh.
Batman's One Step Beyond, Alfred Hitchcock's. I mean, there's so many.
She never
the
stopped. Yeah,
Egyptian-
wonderful, wonderful.
Yeah, I'd
that
love.
wasn't so feisty, David. I was a good little girl. Now I don't put up with that baloney anymore.
Uh-huh.
So, David, I got your list of credits also, and I'm going to start marking them down and watching every single one of them. I can't wait.
Yeah.
Your sound
Oh.
keeps cutting
Oh,
out a
you're-
little,
you're-
maybe, so
you're there?
David's
Yeah.
not
Oh.
hearing.
I can't.
There you are.
Nope. You cut out a little bit, Mimi. I'm sorry. I think it
Okay.
might be the connection.
I wrote down, you wrote me all your credits, and I am going to start checking them off, watching them and checking them, and
I
just
hope-
having such a good time.
I hope you like them, because if you don't, you're going to tell me so. I know.
Terrible.
Well, I like them already. Hi, Jonathan. Kisses to you.
And this is Ben, who we met sitting at our table for a while.
We met last year. It's good to see
Pasadena.
you again.
Yeah.
We met last year in
Who is
Pasadena.
there?
Oh, it's Ben. We
Who?
met last year in Pasadena.
Ben Wickey sat at our
Hi
table.
there,
with our
Ben.
children.
Nice meeting
Hi,
you.
good to see you again. You too. Good to see you again.
And Mimi, I want to introduce you to Ross. He's my co-host on the show.
Hello,
Hi,
Mimi.
Ross. Wait a second. Hold on. I'm sorry. I've got dogs. I'm shoving the puppy in the bathroom in case she has to go to the bathroom. Sorry. This is
All right.
this is real life.
This reminds me of the time you went through the drive-through, Roy.
On your
We're not supposed to tell David, Jonathan, and Ben about that. And Mimi. We lost power in the house. Sherry and I lost power. So what I did was I actually went to a local Starbucks, and I was in the car broadcasting the show using their Wi-Fi. And then what I did was I drove through the drive-through to get a coffee while I was broadcasting the show.
Good for you.
Yeah.
Just to keep it real.
Yeah, right.
But David, I wanted to also, we got to talk about, we just mentioned Mimi's book. I wanted to just give a quick shout out to your book too. So I'm going to put that on the screen just so everybody can see.
There it is.
Oh, thank you. Yeah.
Yeah.
And I love the title. It's great.
Oh, yeah.
Perfect.
Where it came from, David.
Well, tell the story about the title.
May I tell us? Yeah,
Absolutely.
my father thought all actors were sissies, the men, and he wasn't a Cockney, but he talked a bit like that. Well, I was in a play, a student play, playing Falstaff, and you can't miss Falstaff wandering around the stage. On the bus on the way home, my mother said to my father, "Well, I enjoyed that, didn't you?" And my dad said, "Yeah, it was all right. Which one was David?" Well, David was Falstaff, you idiot father. So that's why, in memory of my father, I called the book Falstaff.
And there's an even funnier story there. When I first met David, I was in a play doing a monologue that I was so long I thought I was freaking out that I'd forget it. So I mentioned to our stage manager, short story, making it short. She said, came back and said, "Oh, I know this retired actor." He said, "My first acting job was doing a monologue on live TV in front of 25 million people. And I had never acted before, so you'll be fine." So I said, "Who's that?" So she gave me David's name, and I looked up IMDb and, Star Trek, 101 Dalmatians, blah, blah. Could you get him to sign my Disney nerd book? And she said, "Well, just invite him over to your house." I'm like, "I can't do that. I have a terrible little tiny house, and he's a big movie star." Meanwhile, she was saying, "Go talk to this young guy." And David's like, I don't want.
I had to be dragged there. I said,
He dragged me bodily to my house.
I'm not an acting coach. I can't tell a young actor how to act.
So she literally almost dragged him bodily to my house for tea. And we hit it off. We've been best friends ever since.
Yeah.
But at that meeting, you know, the way people say, oh, if I ever write an autobiography, I will call it this, with no thought that it will ever really happen.
Yeah.
So David at that meeting told me, if I ever write an autobiography, it'll be called Which One Was David? Because of that. So I think it was like a couple of years later, Jim Hollyfield and I were both thinking David's stories need to be recorded and not lost. So Jim went to Bear Manor and proposed this book. And Jim had been in contact with David for decades since Jim was a teenager. So Bear Manor said, yeah, let's do this book. And we're like, holy cow, we need to write a book now.
I don't know how to write a book. So what we did, I talked to Jonathan for 20 hours and he recorded it all on CDs, and we sent all 20 CDs to poor Jim in Memphis too.
Who also had years of David's letters and audio.
Yeah. So that's how the book came about.
But we said it has to be called Which One Was David?
Yeah.
Because of that first.
Yeah. Which one was David? Yeah.
It's available in paperback and a hardcover.
It's
too.
a fantastic book. Every movie buff needs it on their shelf.
Absolutely.
It's a treasure trove.
Absolutely. You know, they make a big deal out of the big movie stars, but we worker bees, we have the stories. We really do.
That's right. You're right. Yes.
Been there, seen it. You know, David, you know, throughout your career, you were all over the place and saw everybody, knew everybody. And it's the stories that people want. They want, and they love the stories from people that weren't famous. I think they like them almost better.
Good.
I would, no, that's very true. Michelle's saying David has some wonderful stories that we heard at Ticonderoga. He held our attention, and it was far too short a time.
Oh, nice. Thank you for saying that. Thank you.
And Dave Rash said, "What a wonderful surprise seeing Mimi too."
Yes.
And she said the same thing too. What a great birthday surprise for David. And Linda said, I love your laugh, David. So she just commented on that too.
Tickle him here.
Ruby just said, David and Mimi's right. Journeyman actors superb.
Well, you know, I was sitting at some show and, you know, William Shatner doesn't exactly have the best reputation for being a nice guy.
Right, you're quite right.
And there was a table where everybody was sitting at lunch and it was all actors like us. And they all had William Shatner stories, one more hilarious than the other. And I swear I could hardly dish up my food because I wanted to hear every single story that they told. And everybody was just laughing their heads off. It was perfection. And so, you know, we worker bees know all the stories, all the strange things that happen.
I hear, Mimi, that William Shatner is a pussycat now. He goes to Ticonderoga. On Thanksgiving, last Thanksgiving, he was dishing out the turkey to the fans. He's become, I'm told, not to me, but to some, a sweetheart, a real regular happy guy.
Wow, what is
reformed?
Let me see here. Danette just said working actors are the best actors too.
Going back earlier in the conversation, I thought of talking about the contract players and the character actors.
Yes.
That would have been a great life because without the pressure of being a star, but you've got the steady, lots of work as variety roles. And somebody called those character actors the ones who make the stars look good.
True, I think true. Yeah.
And I think there's a lot of truth to that.
Yeah.
Yeah, and that's a lot of talent in itself right there, right?
That's right. You're right. Yes.
Tony said, well said, Mimi. David also wrote with discretion, not sensationalism in regards to the book.
Yeah, true. Yep.
Oh.
Good.
But no, this has been wonderful. And I'm just so happy that we were able to have you on and share these, these wonderful, stories and memories. And then also just to be able to celebrate your 98th birthday, David. It's just amazing.
I will never forget this birthday. Thanks to you. Thanks to you. Thank you. Thank you.
I really appreciate it. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to kind of bypass the shout outs because I don't want to hold you up so much. I'm just going to throw a couple of them out there. I'm just going to go really quickly because usually I take about like 5 minutes from doing it. So I'm just going to go a little bit fast and bypass some stuff. And then I'm just going to come back. Folks, if you have any last minute comments that you want to type in or ask David or Mimi, please do so. And like I said, I'm just going to go through the shout outs super quick. So Mike and Mary Beth, they are on Wednesdays and they are on Sci-Fi Distilled. That'll be this Wednesday at 7 p.m. They're doing We Watched It So You Don't Have to as far as bad movies. That will be this Wednesday. So check them out. Also, I want to give a quick shout out to Countrygate Players. My Countrygate is back. If you're in the Belvedere Harmony area, go to the website, which is www.countrygate.org. And also Bill Scarrato, who's on, my friend from Countrygate. You can check out his website, www.billscarrato.com. And again, Countrygate is back for this 2024 season. Also, Captain Phil is on WUSB 90.1 FM, Stony Brook, New York. Check him out. He's on Fridays, 9 to 11:30. Our friends at Trek Talking, a podcast. Check them out also on Facebook. The Eagle has landed. The Eagle Obsession is now in production. And you can go to www.eagledocumentary.com for information in regards to that. Jeffrey Morris is handling that, my friend. Also, I want to give a shout out to Martha at Studio One Thrift. You can go to her website, www.studioonethrift.com for details. Also, Warren, who's out there in regards to the Space 1999 convention taking place in England, www.space199950years.com. Ross, you just want to go through the stuff that you have coming up this weekend real quick?
Yeah, these are my 3 recorded shows. They originate on KWAX at the University of Oregon on the West Coast. So Picture Perfect's the movie music show. That should be winding up right about now. That was all music for President's Day. John Williams scores for, Lincoln and Nixon and JFK and for Amistad, because you've got Nigel Hawthorne and Anthony Hopkins in there playing presidents as well. Sweetness and Light is my light music show. That's tomorrow morning. 11 o'clock here on the East Coast. It's 8 o'clock out there on the West Coast, but it's Black History Month. So it's all music by Black composers, people like U.B. Blake and James P. Johnson. And I've got Marian Anderson singing some spirituals and things. So that's tomorrow morning. The Lost Chord is my unusual and neglected repertoire show. That's tomorrow night at 7 o'clock on the East Coast, 4 o'clock out there on the West Coast. And that's all music of Samuel Coleridge Taylor, who was an Anglo-African composer who lived in the early years of the 20th century. And I've got some selections from some of his music tomorrow night on a program called Tailor Made, The Lost Chord.
Yeah.
So, and you can stream them all at the address that's posted there, the URL, and I tease them on my Facebook page. So tomorrow morning I'll write about, I think there's already something up there actually about Sweetness and Light, but I'll write more about it tomorrow morning, and also the Lost Chord on classic Ross Amico. Thanks, Roy.
Yep, thanks, Ross. And just to let everybody know, Ross and I will be back next Friday, which is going to be the 23rd of February. This month is flying, which is crazy. Yeah. And we will let everybody know what we will be streaming and what we will be discussing. So it's to be determined. So stay tuned on that. I just want to thank all of our viewers out there who have tuned in for this special night for celebrating David's birthday. Thank you for being out there.
Thank you.
Again, thank you so much, David. A lot of comments are coming through in regards to wishing you happy birthday, and just glad that you could be out there. So.
My favorite is Party at David and Jonathan's.
Roy and Ross, thank you for making this possible. I will never forget my 98th. I would never. Thank you.
You're
Uh,
so
and-
welcome.
Thank you, Mimi.
And it was good to meet you, Ben. And thanks again, Jonathan, for coming on.
Thank you.
Oh, good to meet you
Yeah.
too, Rex and Roy. Thank you so much.
No, you're so welcome. Thank you, Ben. Thanks for coming on. And Jonathan, always, it's a pleasure. David, again, it's such a
Very
pleasure.
happy.
And then
Yeah.
Mimi's there. We dropped her accidentally. Mimi, thank you so much for coming on and making it special. And
Yes.
it's always like to say,
Thank you,
live long
Mimi.
Oh, they're doing the
Uh,
All right.
okay.
take care, everyone. I'm
Thank you.